Hello, today we're going to be solving quadratic equations using the quadratic formula. There's this cool video that you can watch and sing along with. It's to help you remember what the formula is because it is kind of a difficult one to memorize, and the song kind of helps out. So we have the standard form of quadratic equations. We have ax squared plus bx plus c, and we're used to seeing the equals 0 on the right hand side. It could be on the left, either one. This is still standard form. And it's really important that you know your A, your B, and your C. The quadratic formula is the negative of B plus or minus the square root of B squared minus 4AC, all divided by 2 times A. And that's why we need to know your A, B, and C. It's very important that you that you have it in standard form first, and then that you identify what your A is, what your B is, and what your C is. Yes, it's going to take a little more time, but just taking those couple of seconds to write those down is really going to save you some heartache later, because you'll make sure you have your negatives and positives where they're supposed to be in the formula. This will always work. Sometimes when you have your equations, they'll be where you can go ahead and factor them out and answer them that way. But then there's the times where it's very difficult and trying to find those answers are just really difficult to factor out. And that's when the quadratic formula really comes in handy. You can use when square roots don't work, or when it's not not easily factorable. Just remember, don't forget, must be in standard form before you start to use the quadratic formula. Because if you had ax squared plus bx equals negative c, well then you would put down this answer for c, and that's really not what they're looking for. They're looking for this c. Okay, so make sure you're very careful with that. Okay, so the homework is going to be the last 2 pages. We're going to do the ones that I've starred together, and then what's left is going to be your homework. So if you want to go to the last page in your homework and transfer what we're doing here, that's perfectly fine. I'm more than happy to let you do that. So when I look at this, it says use the quadratic formula to solve and round the answers to the nearest thousandths when necessary. So I'm taking a look at this, and I have 2w squared minus 28w equals negative 98. And I notice that it does not equal 0. So I need to put it in standard form. And to do so, I need to add 98 to both sides of the equation. So I get 2w squared minus 28w plus 98 equals 0. Now I can identify my A is 2, my B is negative 28, and my C is positive 98. Okay? Now, the important thing to do is always to have written somewhere your quadratic equation. We know that x equals the negative of B plus or minus the square root of b squared minus 4ac over 2 times a. So now I'm just going to take that information and I'm just going to bring it down. So negative b, well, b is negative 28, so it's going to be the negative of negative 28 plus or minus the square root of negative 28 is squared. And you need to make sure that when you do this, that you have negative 28 times negative 28. You don't want to do negative 28 squared, because then you're going to get the negative of positive 28 squared. So make sure you put it in your calculator correctly, please. And then we have minus 4 times A. A we said was 2. Times C, which is 98. And I can see I'm going to have to get my calculator out here. All right, so now I'm going to take the negative, or the opposite of negative 28 is positive 28, plus or minus the square root of. I need to know what negative 28 squared is. And that is 784 minus 4 times 2 is negative 8. And so negative 8 times 98. And that is negative 784. And then 2a is 2 times 2 is 4. Well, if I take 784 minus 784, I get 0. So this is really 0. So then we get 28 divided by 4 is 7. Because 28 divided by 4 is 7, and the square root of 0, this is just 0. If I add 0 to it, I'm going to get 7. If I subtract 0 from it, I'm going to get 7. So the only solution that I have is x equals 7. Okay? Now let's go over and look at, I believe, number 3. Yes, number 3. So we have 2x squared minus 8x equals negative 5. It's not in standard form, so I need to put it in standard form. So I'm going to add 5 to each side. So I get 2x squared minus 8x plus 5 equals 0. I identify my a is 2, my b is negative 8, and my c is 5. And now we're going to, the more you write this formula down, the better it is at remembering what it is that you need to do. So that's b squared minus 4ac all over 2 times a. All right, so let's start plugging in. So b is negative 8. So we have negative of negative 8, or the opposite of negative 8. Negative 8 squared minus 4 times a is 2, and c is 5. And it's a 5, not a 15. All right, so when I'm working this through, I know the opposite of negative 8 is positive 8, plus or minus. Negative 8 times negative 8 is 64. And then I know 2 times 5 is 10, times negative 4 is negative 40, or be 40. And 64 minus 40 over 2 times 2. So if I rewrite everything, 64 minus 40, I get 24 over 4. Now, I take a look at this and I know that 24 is not a perfect square. So, and remember the instructions said round to the nearest thousandths. So I'm going to take 24 and find the square root of it. And so the square root of 24 is 4.8989979, and we need to go to the thousandths. So we need to go out 3 places. So this 9 is affecting the 8. So then we get 8 plus or minus 4.899. all this divided by 4. And I can take 8 plus 4 point, let's see, let's do one in red. So we can take 8 plus 4.899 and then divide it by 4. Or I can take 8 minus 4.899 and divide that by 4. So if I take 8 plus 4.899, I get 12.899 divided by 4, and we get 3.2247, so that's going to go around to 25. The other one is 8 minus 4.899. That equals 3.101. Oops, I'm just going to do a different color. Keep this together. So 3.101 over 4. And we get 0.7752. So that's going to be 775. And those are our two answers. Those are our two solutions. Okay, on number 6, I just wanted to point out that you have a 4-7 over here on the side, a 4z I mean. So when you're subtracting 4z from both sides, because it's a z and not squared, it's going to go between these two. So then you're going to get 2z squared minus 4z plus 1 equals 0. And this, make sure that you have it in the ax squared plus bx plus c, so that you get your right a, b, and c. Okay? So be careful and don't mess that up. This next part that we're going to talk about is the discriminant. The discriminant is this part, and you'll notice this looks familiar, doesn't it? When we have our x equals the negative of b plus or minus, we have the b squared minus 4ac, and then all of that's over 2a. This part right here is inside that square root. That's what's going to tell you what your discriminant, and it tells you how many solutions the equation is going to have. If when you work this out you have a negative number, the discriminant is negative, there are no solutions to it. If you do where it's a discriminant is 0, remember the one we did earlier where we subtracted 784 from 784? We got 0. It was one solution, wasn't it? Our solution was x was 7. And then this is discriminant is positive, then you're going to have two solutions. And they may not be pretty solutions, but they will have two solutions. And so let's take a look at 1. We identify our a is negative 6, our b is 10, and our c is negative 1. And we need b squared minus 4ac. So b squared is 10 squared minus 4 times a, which is negative 6, times c, which is negative 1. And that's positive 6 times, so it's 100 minus, that's 6 times 4 is 24. And that gives us a positive answer of 76. So it's a positive, and we said earlier that a positive discriminant gives me two solutions. So my answer to this is 2 solutions. That's all you have to write in. And then the other 2 are yours for homework. If you have any questions, don't forget to contact me and let me know that you need help, and then I'm on Zoom at 2 o'clock. I'll talk to you later.